me watch you, your expert double.
We're going to the mothership. We're going to the nexus of all love. We're going to the Twitter offices. The thing about things like Twitter is like you assume that it's like this giant thing where lots of people work, but then you show up and it's like some dude's apartment. And it's just him and his friend from college. And, everything's really messy and like they're listening to Black Sabbath and there's bongs everywhere and they're like, hey, welcome to Twitter. Oh, I brought the wrong half of the receipt that I wrote the address on. I have my period. And I feel like shit. It's one of those days.
Advil?
Yeah, I don't ever really take anything. I find it doesn't help. I find that what helps is sleep and water and stopping doing things and letting things stop is generally what works. 539, boom.
Woo.
One thing I fucking bet is that Twitter will have good coffee. Let's see. Make you proud. All right, this is Dell, and I just asked her, Dell liked the computer, and she said no. DEL 1L. Really embarrassing story involving your boyfriend.
It's about the way of it, yeah.
Where's it from?
Sandman, of course. Delirium, Who Was Once Delight.
I'm a bad Neil Gaiman fan. I didn't.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm quite fine with that. I had friends nickname me that back in college, and it stuck. And now is my actual name.
And now she's working at Twitter, and we are going to go into the Twitter kitchen, make coffee, and talk about what she does because it sounds really interesting.
Only for short periods of time.
Let's go. The Twitter kitchen.
Yeah.
Can you see that fridge real quick?
The fridge is pretty awesome.
I assume you want it opened.
Look at that.
Filled with fancy drinks. And they have animal crackers, Cliff Bars, emergencies, pretzels, trail mix, water with cucumber in it, just like a fancy restaurant, and different kinds of nuts, and blue raspberry Jolly Ranchers. So step by step, we are going to make coffee at Twitter.
They actually,
they did it for us.
Who does most of it kind of took that joy out of your life.
That's how awesome it is here.
Yeah, it's so awesome that the main step is going to be pouring, I think.
And sugaring and dairying.
Well, yes, if that's your thing.
I didn't completely get it during lunch, but Dell basically, if I understood it right, sits around and makes sure that all of the spam that is constantly showing up on Twitter is obliterated, eviscerated.
Or as much as possible. Not necessarily all of it, but yeah.
So,
abuse.
So how does that actually work?
Well, there's a few different things. We have reports from people. We have reports that we're generating. We're constantly watching different vectors for new incoming groups of spam. We see a bunch of posts that say, check out my hot picture.
Yeah.
It's not always a hot picture that someone's innocently posting, as it turns out.
So let's say it goes like this. Michael Jackson dies. All of a sudden, there are 500 accounts of, like...
Dubious intent.
Explain, kind of how the system works and how you know what's real and what's not.
Well, it's specifically what I do. I see 500 accounts all posting pretty much the exact same thing, and it doesn't go to a good link at the end. Rather than users going to that link and maybe thinking, hey, there really is a video here for me to download and install, I go ahead and block the link, suspend the users, send out a message to the Twitter universe if necessary via @spam. It's really not exciting for anyone but me, I think.
Do you literally have to go in by hand and look at every link?
We don't look at every link. We can do a lot of okay, this is being sent out from an account that is associated with other bad accounts.
Yeah.
And thus this account is also not trustworthy. So there's a lot of, reputation and...
So how many people at one time are working on that stuff?
Until about a month ago, it was me.
Wow.
And eventually I got tired of never sleeping and not being able to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Or anything, because I'd get a phone call.
Do you feel like you have enough help?
Well, I've had one person now helping me out in this area for about a month, and I just got to go ahead to hire 2 more, and it'll probably continue snowballing from there. But eventually I will have an army of minions, and we will destroy spam.
Spam destroying minions.
It'll be good.
And what
Good
about
t-shirts.
And so I heard this term bandied about earlier, which was spam and abuse. Can you talk about the abuse portion?
There's actually a few different types.
And where's the sugar?
In terms of, we're pretty
Cane
fancy
sugar.
around
Cane
here.
sugar.
In terms of abuse, it can be anything from somebody who's repeatedly replying somebody, like 300 replies saying you're stupid, I hate you, whatever. If it's spamming someone with unsolicited replies, that can be considered abuse.
So, but do you have to actively be told by the person who's being spammed, or do you have programs that are like, this person just got 300 replies?
Yeah.
What the fuck is up with that?
There's some triggers that can get set off that'll cause like klaxons basically to go off in my head, if not around me. But there's other things where literally people just be like, hey, you need to check this out. I get a lot of replies from people saying, please look at this, and I do. And then I do.
And how do you deal with the verified accounts thing? So there's like 3 fake Trent Reznors out there, and
there's a very fine line because there is verified accounts. Verified accounts you verify based upon obviously. Thanks, spoon. If they're the real person or not. For impersonation accounts, if it's a parody,
that's okay.
We leave it alone. If it's actually someone trying to pass themselves off as the person, they get pulled. So we actually suspend accounts based upon impersonation as well, if we're notified. Because we can't proactively screen for every fake account.
Right.
On Twitter, I would cry. That's all I would do.
Do you, have you had any, because I was talking with Neil about this the other day and wondering, has anyone had an account that was so believable that they they managed to get like 200,000 celebrity?
Not 200,000. We've had probably a lot of times before celebrities get on Twitter, there'll be an account on there and they'll get followers, just people thinking, oh, this might be them.
Right.
But that usually gets cleaned up pretty quickly. We're pretty good about policing that, all things considered.
It's like an entire new art form, though, of like Twitter-specific celebrity impersonation.
It is actually
like actually making things seem real.
Yeah, I think it helps the 140 characters because you only have to be believable in short spurts.
It's not very deep.
No, well, I mean it can be if you're linking somewhere else, but in terms of.
So, what are some of your favorite people to follow?
Well, I follow both you and Neil, and. In terms of other people, there's one account, there's a person who pretends to be Amish. I'm a big fan of that account. I think it's Amish Chick is the username. I actually follow Best At, which it's the collective of all the tweets that get favorited the most. So you get like the best of the best kind of thing. And then I actually follow my coworkers. I think they're pretty awesome. So. Yay,
solidarity. Twitter solidarity. That's awesome. Yeah, we were talking earlier about how, because I was discussing in this Hypebot article that I was talking about how, it is not necessarily human to be constantly communicative, totally exhibitionist, feeling like you have to share all the time. And there is definitely a cultural lean towards everyone feeling like, well, why is it that I don't have anything important to say 90 times a day? And I was wondering about the Twitter employees themselves and whether they all tweet constantly all day, or if some of them are like, I work here, but I'm not really into that. And that, I got an interesting answer.
Everybody here, for the most part, does tweet. I mean, it's at least like 1 or 2 times a day, pretty much. There's people who tweet far more. I use mine to actually communicate with users who are having issues. So I send out replies all day long to people who are like, yeah, I can't find myself. I'm like, all right, now you can go.
And you should give your @name right now so people know it.
Delbius, DELBIUS, @Delbius.
Who I will be following when I get home.
Yes, finally, my dreams are all coming true. Neil already follows me, so
awesome.
Looking good for me today.
And I wish he could have come in.
Yeah, well, next time. But in terms of, I think we are very passionate about Twitter. In order to work here, you do have to be very passionate about Twitter. You have to be very passionate about the platform, what we're trying to do. I really don't think there's anybody here who's just like, oh yeah, I'm working for Twitter because it's kind of good. Like it's
food is good.
Yeah, the food's good. Whatever.
They have Cliff Bars. The coffee's okay.
Transport's pretty easy. No, everybody here really wants to make it better.
You can tell just like from hanging out here and walking around.
We're all you'll see people during lunch and they're discussing a coding issue.
Well,
rather
people,
than,
it's
you
also
know.
like it's small enough that it feels like everyone eats together. Like I love the
Yeah,
fact that
it's-
everyone actually sits down and has lunch together, family
It's very
style.
much a family setting.
Which is awesome. It didn't feel that way at Google. No offense to Google,
Well,
but
they're a little bigger.
10,000 people, hard to plan lunch.
Yeah, no, it's really great actually. And
How
my
would you
coworkers are
describe
great.
what you're trying to do? Because you said it all.
I think the easiest description is just change the world. For me, I'm also just trying to make people be able to change the world more efficiently, because obviously since I am trying to fight spam and abuse, the never-ending battle, I am the Sisyphus of Twitter. You know, my goal is just to make it so that your experience in changing the world is enjoyable as possible. I'm the flight attendant and the Sisyphus of Twitter.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Dell, AFP, howdy clam chowdy.
I've always wanted to see them.
I'm so excited.